Wow. If I'm exhausted by all of these changes in podcasting, you must be going crazy. Here's the news. It's okay to let them pass you by. Hello and welcome to another podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Lots of changes in podcasting. And I'm beat, people. I am tired out. I woke up this morning, as I always do, a little later than normal, reading the news, because I always like to churn through what's happening in the world of podcasting, and I realized today that, wow, it's been a crazy, crazy news cycle. And here's the bad news, good news, the news, it's not going to change. But I've got some good news for you. I'm going to give you some permission, because I recognize that for you are a working podcaster. You try and keep up with these things as possible, and you tune in, you dial in, you download and stream and click play on this particular show because you want to know what it all means. You want to know what you need to do, how you need to react, what changes you need to make for the future, because this is all about making podcasting better, not just easier. Absorbing and understanding all these different business models and how they're going to change the landscape of podcasting we find ourselves in. So that's what you rely on me for. Thank you, by the way, for continuing to listen, watch, as I do these various fun things. But I have some good news for you, or some reality check for those out there who are struggling to keep up with it all. Because you've got a day job, because you've got podcasts to produce if you're a full-time working podcaster, or you got other things going on in your life. What do you do? Well, here's the reality. I'm taking this entire episode to give you permission to do this. Breathe. Relax. Take it easy. Because for all the rapid fire change and churn and disruption that podcasting as an industry is undergoing right now, it's not going to affect you today. It's not going to affect you next week. Heck, it probably won't even affect you next month, and maybe not even for the entire time that 2019 is with us. You've got time. And a lot of these changes and churn and disruption are all going to sort themselves out. They're all going to sort themselves out. It's very rare that when an industry is being disrupted, and I firmly think that podcasting is today, even though in 2014 when I was keynoting Podcast Movement I said it wasn't disruptive. Well, the podcast industry itself is now, 5 years later, being disrupted. But even though that's happening to the industry, here's one of the things that people don't understand about disruption. It's typically this type of disruption we're seeing isn't disruptive to the end user. Now, yes, there will be some hiccups. There was one today where NPR had a boo-boo when they pushed out a change that, if you're subscribed to any NPR shows, you might want to check. You probably have a lot of extra stuff you didn't need. But that's rare. That's just a feed change. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I did a feed change for a friend of mine, a client last week, and suddenly, 80,000 episodes were downloaded in one day because the feed changed, and that happens sometimes. But outside of that, disruption typically doesn't trickle down at any massive scale, at least. Trickle down is the wrong way. Disruption tends not to disrupt the users of the product, the listeners. So what that means is, here I am, a guy who's deep inside of podcasting, talking about podcasting to you, who is also deep inside of podcasting, but the things we make, the things you make, the things I make for my clients, the people that listen to those things, they're not impacted by this. So we don't have to rush to implement these things right now. Oh my God. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. It is okay to let these changes roll and percolate and settle themselves out before you take any massive action. It's okay to just take a breath and let it roll over you. Now, at some point in time, the changes that are here to stay, you're going to have to make some modifications. There's no doubt about that. It takes time, But eventually you will have to implement some of the changes. You will have to implement changes to react to some of the news that's being announced right now. But you don't have to do it today. In order to make sure that you are set up for when that happens, I've got 2 pieces of advice for you. Advice number one is don't go in ostrich mode. Don't just stick your head in the sand and say, I don't want to pay any attention to any of this because I don't have time for it right now. I recognize you don't have time for it, but you still need to pay attention, even if you don't react. But don't take the extreme step of stop listening to commentary, news, and announcements about podcasting. If it's overwhelming, by all means, take a break, but you're going to have to get caught back up again. Don't cancel it. Just simply give yourself permission to not react to it. That's number 1. And number 2, make sure your house is in order. Make sure the things you are doing right now, all the processes you undergo, are as good as they can be, are as tight as they can be, and most importantly, that you understand all of them. Because in a few months, whether that's single digit or double digits, in a few months when you do start to react to the changes that we're talking about right now, because they are the way of the future, you'll need to make some changes to your processes, and you need to understand what those processes are. I talk a lot on this show about processes. I was not by birth a process-oriented guy, but I've become one by defense mechanism, by survival. You need to make sure you got your process. So make sure your house is in order. So while you're while you're just letting things go by you right now, take a look. Make sure that the things you're doing are still right and current and you're okay. And then in a few months you can come back and address. Once we've had these things settle out, you will be able to figure out how to implement your show. But it's okay to take a very Zen-like approach to this. Take a deep breath. Let it wash over you. Understand it, but recognize that you don't have to do anything right now. Not right now. Unless, of course, you do have to do something right now. And if you do and you need some help with that, get in touch with me, would you? I got an entire team that launches podcasts and keeps them running for people and businesses all around the globe. You can check out podcastlaunch.pro for a list of the services we offer. Or if you need something special, you need something unique, you need something just for you, for your show, for your business, reach out to me directly, evo@podcastlaunch.pro. I'm sure I can help. All right, everybody, breathe, relax, and enjoy, because I will be back tomorrow with yet another podcast pontifications. Cheers!